Dumelang, Sanbonani, Huemore, good day. Have you made up your mind? 29 days before the big election. Some have said it's our 1994, 30 years in democracy. A couple of years ago, there was a woman named Helen Suzman, a very patriotic South African who stood in parliament, fought against the evils of apartheid. And today, because of her amazing work, we have an organization called the Democratic Alliance. In studio today, I have Solly Msimanga, the incoming premier of Gauteng. Will he be getting your vote? You will let me know after this interview. Solly Msimanga is the former mayor of Tshwane, and also he is the Gauteng provincial chairperson. And not only that, Solly is also the leader of the opposition in the Gauteng legislature. Mr Msimanga, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bafana. Good day, and really great to be here. I've always wanted to do this show with you. I've done it with Gareth before, but yeah, looking forward to it.
No, definitely. Thank you for taking your time out. I think let's start before politics. You in Pretoria.
Yeah.
Did you grow up in Pretoria? Was your life all about politics? How did it all start?
No, born raised in Pretoria, in a township called Attridgeville, west of Pretoria. Mshumanako location, Mfanako Kasi. Yeah, you can see. As they say, if you come from Attridgeville, there is a distinct way people will know you. But more seriously and more importantly is, the upbringing that I've had is, I think, what has actually then, pushed me and directed me into this direction, where I grew up in an informal settlement. I grew up in a place called Javsville. I am in Attridgeville, in a shack. And I vowed that I will not, live the rest of my life in that kind of a condition.
Yes.
And that to those that will be coming after me, will not have to go through what I had to go through. And this is something that I'd carried through not only for my kids, but it's always been a passion of mine to then say, I want to see so many other Sollys who would come from nothing, but, will become something,
Yes.
And I've had that great opportunity, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity or opportunities that I've had. I mean, from growing to, in Jeffsville, where we were selling paraffin or selling coal, with that Demabunda, moving around to being able to go to, to high school, go Solrichi, then finding myself at Vista University, which later became Pretoria University.
Yes.
Working as a waiter throughout my university days, and then, towards the end, finding an opportunity to work, with a number of embassies, and then growing from there into the private sector as well, where I became a director of, quite a number of companies, and from there working in the party. And what got me into the party was very strange, because I was, blessed with a job that was making me travel.
Yes.
And I was able to travel to very developed countries, and I was able to travel into Africa where things were not looking that good. And, it always, when I came home, it always hit me to then say, yeah, it looks like we might be going this wrong route.
Yeah.
And this is why I ended up at some time visited, or while I was at home in Attridgeville, Tony Leon came to Attridgeville and was in the hall there. One of the rallies there was Simon Mutsaneng, Lot Matibedi, they were all there. And I saw and heard Tony, but I felt that he was not talking to the people that were there. The message was good, but it was too technical.
Just misplaced.
Yes. And I was like, but you're speaking to people's heads. You're not speaking to people's emotions and hearts. That's what you need to do, And I wrote a letter during that week, and I wrote the letter to the party. Didn't even expect that I would get an answer. Lo and behold, I got
Were you
an
venting
answer.
out?
Yeah, I was like, you know what? I'm traveling and I'm seeing this, and I'm looking for a home that will be able to then talk to the things that I want to see happening for not only my township, but for South Africa, because as I said, I'm traveling, I am somewhere, I've been to Germany where if a train is 2 minutes late, It's chaos. They want to apologize to the whole world, that a train was 2 minutes late.
Yeah.
Yet you go to a country, I remember going to Liberia and at some point seeing Charles Taylor, because we had an opportunity to go, and they called him Pape. We had an opportunity to go his compound. And when we were there, somebody walked in and said, Pape, there's a bus that's broken down, and just out of his cabinet, drew dollars and then say, here, go and fix it. No accountability, no nothing. And that's, that was government in Africa.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, this is not what I want. When I came home, I wanted to have that kind of a conversation.
But somebody else, for someone who grew up in Outreachville, who is black, who probably saw the end of apartheid, and maybe your mom told you the story.
Yeah.
One would wonder, why would you choose DA? Why not ANC? Why not PAC? All those liberation movements. Why did you choose to go this other way of Democratic Alliance?
Look, I'm not shy about it, and I'm on record. We started with the ANC. We were part of the ANC. My uncle has been part of the veterans.
Okay.
At some point, didn't even talk to me because he didn't understand what I was doing. Because I joined the DA when it was not fashionable to do so. When we were wearing that, before it was even the blue T-shirt, it was the yellow T-shirt. We had that yellow T-shirts that we were wearing. And, you were aware that it was almost like a taboo. But I said to my uncles and to so many others that the problem that we're sitting with is that we are sitting with a liberation movement that is failing to transform itself into a political party of government. That is what became, for me, the biggest challenge and the biggest problem. Because also, people stopped listening within the organization. They stopped listening because, who are you? If you didn't carry a certain surname, it didn't matter. You could shout all you want.
If you didn't come from Lusaka.
Yes, if you didn't carry a certain surname, if you didn't make a lot of noise or be the one that can toy the hardest or the loudest, then you wouldn't be listened to. Yes. And I was saying, guys, but we are heading in the wrong direction. This is where I think we are going to start failing the people of South Africa. But nobody listened. And I said, well, look, I needed to then look for a different home that will be able to then, give me what I want to see South Africa looking like. And you ask the question, why did I then choose the DA? Look, for me, it was an issue of which political party has at that time had the most realistic chance of taking over government, and will be able to then implement, And I looked, and I looked at, at the time the IFP was more of a regional, more tribal, Zulu orientated party. The PAC looked like a dying party, and again, it was not talking to what I want to then see. I'm a capitalist in nature. I am more broadly looking, and not just looking in terms of wanting to nationalize or run a much more communist orientated political party. I wanted a more liberal outlooking party that is able to bring everybody understanding the history of where we are as South African. I said, well, look, are you going to bring in all the elements together? Which party is actually able to do that? And at the time that I joined 20 years ago, the only party that for me was looking like and talking to these issues was the DA. And I was offered a position, a job at that time in the party as a director responsible what you would call marketing, but it was more what the program that we call lead. I was offered the job, but as a director there, I had to take a salary cut. My wife wanted to kill me at that time, because then she said to me, "Are you crazy? You are now leaving a decent paying job where you're doing all these things." I said, "Look, yes, I can bury my head in the sand and continue, with this lavish line that I'm in, which is going to take me to greater heights, yes.
Yeah.
But what does that mean when you're having a country that is falling apart? And this is why I decided to go this route. Went into that line, ended up, taking over as a staff member, that I became a director. Then I became the provincial director of the DA. From there, I was elected as a councillor, and then I grew from there.
I think that was my question. Then after your time in the DA, you then became the mayor of Tshwane.
Yeah.
And some would say your term in Tshwane, you saw a lot of change, a a lot of development.
Yeah.
What would you say made you different from any other mayor who took over Tshwane?
Look, when we got into Tshwane was in debt for over 2.8 billion in the red. And I said, look, let's stop all this fancy footwork and talks and, you know, this political jargon. Let's get to it. Let's start doing the basics. Within the year and a half, we were able to take the municipality from a negative bank balance to over 280 million operating surplus. Why? Because I said, let's cut all the corruption that was taking place. I mean, I remember there was a company that was being paid 5 million rand a day.
A day?
5 million rand a day for the so-called smart meters that were not very smart. We found that there were vehicles belonging to the municipalities that were hidden in plots, Go Pretoria North, Marabastata, in Mamelodi, in Brongospruit. They were hidden because then, you know, there were people within the municipality that were pushing for rentals. So we hid municipal vehicles and we're renting vehicles at exorbitant amounts of money.
Sure.
And I said, no, we need to stop this. And there were vehicles that needed to be out of commission. And we stopped that. And we started now buying vehicles for the municipality. I remember coming in, Metropolis personnel were using electricity department vehicles. Now you can imagine Metropolis chasing you with a bakkie that has a step ladder on top. You know, so this is what we inherited, and we said we needed to change that, and we started working around it. I said we also must get people employed more on a permanent basis than having people on acting basis, because we don't have people taking decisions. That's what we started doing. Within 2 years, we saw Moody's upgrading us 2 times, going up. We were able to then start saying, here's money. We were able to then start attracting investment. Ford put in an additional $4 billion US dollars. Initially it was 2, then they came up with another 4 billion US dollars. They won a contract to then, get in the new Ford Ranger there. We assisted them. We widened the Simon Formitton route to be able to then get onto the highway. We went into BMW, we worked with them. We assisted with getting biodigesters to generate electricity for them. So we did quite a lot. The one thing that I wish I had been able to then complete is fixing of the water in Hammanskraal. When we got into Tshwane, I campaigned on that as an issue.
Yes.
And we got in there, and we went on a study, we finished the study, and we got a report. That report that said, in order for you to fix the Hammanskraal water, you need to start upstream. Upstream meaning you need to start at the river, because there's water that flows through the river to Temba. Temba gets to then be the purifying center, and then you supply water to Hammanskraal. What we found is that at Rival, this is something that was built 65 years ago.
Sure.
So it was built 65 years. It was never maintained. It was never upgraded. Now you can imagine what Pretoria looked like 65 years ago when this thing was designed and built. And then what it looks like almost 70 years later. And you realize that there's a whole lot of, upgrading that needed to take place. And we then said, look, we will not be able to then do this as a municipality on our own. I wrote to National Treasury to then say, we need help. And we want to go out on tender. We want to go out and get partners that will be able to then assist us.
Yes.
National Treasury says, no, go ahead. Provincial Treasury says, no, go ahead. We go out on tender. After engaging with engineers and scientists from Pretoria University, from UNISA, who were saying, this is what you now need to do. A turnaround strategy starting from Rayval all the way, including a rehabilitation of the grounds, all the way to Hammanskraal is what you need to do. Wow. We went out, we got, at the point there was 4 companies that were saying they're interested to do that. International companies who were saying, we'll bring in money, we'll come in with money, obviously we'll go into some kind of engagement and negotiation in terms of how the municipality will be able to then pay us over a period of time.
Yeah.
When we were about to then roll this thing out, the minister from the ANC, also known as Nomvula Mkonyane, who was then responsible for water and sanitation at that point in time, says, you're not going to do it. Stopped it, because it became a political football for them. They said, you will not do it. They said, and I can give you a number of reasons why. It was political, but also it was something that was going to be close on 3.54 billion rand that didn't include any comrades in it. They couldn't have that.
But then, Solly, there's also a view that whenever the DA governs, development and growth, we see it more in the suburban areas, just like in Cape Town, what's happening. Is that a myth that your government is pro-white or middle-class suburban areas and it neglects the black masses on the ground?
Go to Mamelodi. Before I left, I had built a fire station because if you go to Lusaka, there used to be fires almost every week in Lusaka. And then you had to rely on a fire station that was coming from Silverton or from Watlu.
Yes.
Which was, you have to then go across Mamelodi to get to the other end. There's a station there now. Fully built, fully fledged, fully operational. It's working there.
Yes.
You go to Sicelo in Midval, where we are in government without any coalition. Look at the amount of work that we have done there, the cleaning that is taking place, the amount of infrastructure upgrades that has been done there, the way it's looking. Compare it to any of the halls in any other township and see if we are not doing work. Go to, you mentioned Cape Town. Now,
Yes.
the apartheid spatial planning left, what I want to call dormitories.
True.
So our townships were initially designed to be dormitories.
Yeah, labor reservoirs.
Labor, yeah. So you stay there, you come during the day, you come and work, and then you leave. And the ANC government has failed to transform that.
True.
And what it also did is that it also left, certain areas as economic nodes, centers, CBDs. But we didn't then, decentralize the economy so that the economy could be where people are. People had to come somewhere for the economy to take place.
Yeah.
That has also been a creator of challenges of being able to then upgrade, township as quickly as you would want to have upgraded them.
Yes.
But we have been able to then build houses. And unfortunately, when you start building houses in the Western Cape, around Cape Town, more people are flocking from the Eastern Cape. So the more you build, the more you're having more people coming in. And they come in, they settle, in sometimes, in Khayelitsha, and sometimes they settle even on unstable, unsuitable pieces of land. That creates problem. But we don't throw our hands in the air and say this cannot happen.
Yes.
We still try and we still beat any, you can go and look at the stats, we still beat any municipality or any province in terms of the provision of rudimentary services. We have built state-of-the-art clinic and hospital in the middle of Khayelitsha. State-of-the-art. That you can go to Grooteskier and then you can go to that same one, you will not see the difference. We have been able to then do that. We have been saying we need to deal with the issues of safety and security for the people. Because remember, policing is not a competency of a local or provincial government. Yes, we might have the Metro Police, but you need Begicele to say yes for you to be able to do certain things. We've been fighting to then say we want to address the issue of crime in places like Khayelitsha and Gugulethu, in Mitchell's Plain and Cape Flats. We're to a point where we're saying maybe we need to bring in the military because the gangs that were operating there were terrorizing communities.
True.
And this is why we ended up even saying, well, we might not be able to then get the police to do everything that we want them to do, but let's bring in technology, let's bring in the wardens. By the way, Panyaza now comes and say they're bringing in Amapanyaza. This is a concept that the DA started 6 years ago already.
Yeah.
And we started it and we did it legally. This is why when you're there, the wardens can stop you, can search you legally. The Mapanyaza can't do that.
True.
Because there's nothing that in law that gives them the authority or the power to do that, right? So you've done that. And we have then said, let's employ more people. Let's create job opportunities. Let's create, much more safer spaces. Let's create much more livable spaces. It's not 100%, where we want it to be, but it's by far better than places like Alexander, if you would want to then do a comparison.
Because I look at the history of the DA with the government administration and all of that, and you being a former executive, and you now going to be the premier of Gauteng, do you think that the issues in Gauteng, it's pure maladministration, lack of maybe skills or management, or do you think it's just people trying to make enough money, steal as much as possible before they leave office?
It's a combination of a number of things. In 2014, when I got to the legislature for the first time, I started asking, and anybody who's been in that legislature will tell you, it's been a song for me. Where's the infrastructure master plan? Where's the plan for the infrastructure that you have? you've seen the deterioration of infrastructure, government-owned infrastructure. You're talking about your hospitals, your clinics, your schools, electricity, roads, roads that are exploding left, right, and center, potholes that are all over, sewer lines that are just running, water that is now being lost. And I've been asking, where is the infrastructure master plan? Because if you walk according to your plan, you can then see if you're making progress or you're not making progress.
Yes.
But this government has been more reactive than being proactive in terms of dealing with issues.
True.
They've been jumping at whoever's making noise, and whoever's banning a school, whoever's banning a clinic or toying is the one that gets to be responded to. Instead of saying, here's the master plan, we are working towards this master plan. And the reason why I started even raising this is that you would even have houses that are built without any substructure supporting it. So you now have houses that are built without any sewer lines connected, any water connected, any electricity connected to that. And then you're having houses that are built, and then you're asking yourself, but how are people supposed to go to toilets? Where are the roads that is going to join them? Join this community that you want to put here into the rest of a town, as an example. So these are things that we have been saying. The government that is there has failed to plan properly and to hold people who are supposed to be the implementers of this plan to account. That's the second thing. If you fail to hold people to account, then what incentive do they have to do the right thing?
Yes.
If you and me earn a salary, I do the right thing, you do the wrong thing, or you don't do your job.
It doesn't matter.
Why must I then, have the incentive or the energy to do what needs to be done? If we are going to get the same salary, if you, at the end of the day, when there's bonuses, you get the same bonus, whether you show up at work or you don't show up at work. I mean, I can give you examples of people that are heading the so-called the hostel renewal projects, who have been there for years and even would have the audacity of telling you when you ask them, when you have 5 years, I'm employed on a permanent basis. I'm telling you, these are things that you get, and you ask yourself, are these the kind of people that you need in government if you're serious about delivering? That's the second thing. The third thing is that there's element of corruption that have been allowed to become the norm in government.
Yes.
And then, sadly, South Africans are become only animated for 5 minutes when certain things happen. You hear, 500 million has gone wasted in the Anglo Ashanti. We put money there for a hospital that not even one patient has ever occupied. And then half a trillion has been spent there, and after a while, nobody says anything. 430 million rand has been spent on sanitizing empty schools. Yet Solidarity has built a university on time, within budget, less than what this government is used to sanitize. And then you ask yourself, are we really out of money, or don't we have money to do what needs to be done? Or money and wrong skills, or money has been there but going to wrong things, and wrong skills and wrong people being in positions, and thirdly, also lack of planning that is supposed to help us to then achieve what we now need to achieve.
And look at Gauteng province. Is the most attractive province. It attracts a lot of young people from across the country, even across the continent, right? It's the economic hub of the country. And sadly, we still have a lot of young people who are deemed unemployable. We still have those who are graduates unemployed. We have these issues that people start to feel as if Gauteng is no longer Gauteng Maboning as we know it. The jobs, the infrastructure, giving people housing. What is the DA plan around that?
Look, what we have said as a Democratic Alliance is that there's 3 things you need to do. One, if you cannot take care of your infrastructure, and you'll hear me humping on this issue of infrastructure time and time again. Nobody wants to come and invest where your infrastructure is not in order. We can take care of electricity in Gauteng. By the way, there's already infrastructure that can support us not being load shed or not, being completely reliant on Eskom. You go to Pretoria West, there's a place called Amumrao Iskoro. There's the old Pretoria West power station. Rayval, there's a power station. Kelvin, there's a power station. Alroot, there's a power station. You bring those up, they bring you up to an additional 1,200 megawatts of electricity within Gauteng, without the electricity that is coming outside, which then means that you are able to then provide much needed electricity for industries that need to then use that electricity. You fix the water. I mean, I met with people as Unpacked as an example, who are saying, if you cannot give me water, I cannot produce toilet paper, I cannot produce paper. And now I'm having people who need jobs or who are in jobs, yet I cannot give, or I cannot have one of the resources that I need to be able to then be productive. Therefore, I'm going to lay people off, or I'm not going to then increase capacity. That's what you need to look at. Third thing is you fix your infrastructure, and we also blessed in Gauteng with a number of industrial areas. I was saying to you earlier on that if you go to places like Orlando West, there's the Orlando West old industrial area. There's Pennyville, there's an industrial area there. Pretoria West, there's an industrial area there. And I can go on almost every place, every town has got, even in the township, has got industrial areas. But what have happened to those? Illegal foreigners have now occupied those. Yet you're having South African young people or South African people who can actually be producers and actually can occupy these and employ more people sitting at home, not getting the opportunity.
Yes.
These are things that we now need to then look at. So we are saying, let's fix the infrastructure. And infrastructure including and comprehensively, I'm talking about schools, clinics, hospitals. I'm talking about roads. I'm talking about, our sewer lines. I'm talking about water, electricity. And some of these industrial areas, fix them up and then give them to people who will be able to then run those. You do that. The second thing is you then provide safety and security. Nobody wants to come and invest where they're not going to be safe, or where their goods and services are not going to be safe. You do that, you are able to then start attracting investment, my brother. So I cannot come here and talk to you about 500,000 jobs that, I will create as government. Where is government getting money from? Because government is reliant on taxes.
Yes.
If you don't have the private sector creating jobs and paying taxes and individuals paying taxes, government doesn't have money. So Panyaza comes and says, no, we will give 500,000 jobs at 7,000 a month. That's 3.4 billion rand a month. Where do you think is going to get that money from? So we are saying, let's partner with the private sector. Let's provide what the private sector needs. And that is safety, security, that is infrastructure that is working. They will come in and invest. Once they start investing, you get more people employed, less people dependent on grants. You have taxes that are coming in for you to be able to then implement other things that government needs to do. Basically, that's that.
Premier, the people of Gauteng, right now they are worried about illegal immigration.
Yeah.
And even the townships, people are worried about their shops and everything being taken over by illegal immigrants. What would you do to manage this illegal immigration? Are you going to deport those who are illegal, or what is your plan?
I've listened to political parties, hopping in on this and saying, this and that. And I said, but this is foolish rhetoric. I want to call it foolish rhetoric because you are addressing a symptom. You're not addressing the cause.
Sure.
The cause is that you have porous borders. If you study the history of South Africa, is that we used to have excellent border control. We used to have soldiers at our borders.
Yes.
The corrupt government removed those because they wanted to start putting private companies that they were owning into the border lines. They're saying, no, they will provide, that border control, or they will border security. Yeah. They failed to do that because our borders are very long and stretched. Sure. So you need resources and capability for you to be able to then do that. Now, you can have buses and buses coming in to take people outside of the country, to take them to their own countries. But you haven't taken care of the problem because until such time as you have secured borders, these people will go out. In fact, some of them will use it as an opportunity to go home and take some of the stuff that they have here and then come back.
Definitely. I hear what you're saying, but right now,
how you deal with it?
How do we deal with it? Do we just keep them here, fix up the borders first, and then bring them back?
We are saying start with the borders. Let's start with the fixing of the borders and the border security. You can then start sweeping in the country, and we have done that has been done. Remember, there used to be buses of people being taken to Lindela before all of that.
Yes,
that has now stopped. Because now it becomes a fruitless exercise, right? So you have people that will go and then next week they are back here. So we are saying let's start with the borders and then come back in and then say, let's now start combing and seeing who's here legally and who's here illegally. If there are people who are here illegally and, you know, there's no threat where they're coming from, then you need to then make that decision to say, no, maybe you need to then go home. But there might be people who are genuinely here because there are wars in their countries and all of that.
Yes.
You can assist. But what you should never, ever have in your country is people that are here that you don't have any record thereof. Because right now, crimes are committed. You find fingerprints everywhere, but you don't know who this person is. And, you know, crimes continue to not be resolved. You have a situation that people are here merely as just economic migrants, if you like. Yet they are not bringing any special skill. They are just here, you know. You ask yourself, how is somebody crossing the border with just a plastic bag of the change of clothes? What is it that they're bringing into the country?
Yes.
You know, these are things that you now need to then answer. And it's not a South African phenomenon. You go to Mozambique right now. December, I was in Zimbabwe. You get to the border, they ask you, where are you going?
True.
Where are you going to be staying? How much money are you bringing in? Can we get a telephone number of where you're going? Yet in South Africa, it's a free-for-all. So we are saying you can deal with this issue of illegal, foreign nationals who are in your country. But for you to then just saying, mabahambe, it becomes just a soundbite. You know, a soundbite, you know, because you want to sound like you want to do something. But if you are serious about it, you need to then address the real issue that is of porous borders. You now need to then say, how are people able to then come into your country? There's no country that is able to then grow on its own steam. That you go to the history of the US, the history of the UK, there's always people that are coming into the country adding to the skill base. But you are also saying, I want people to come legally and I need to know what is it that they are coming to do in the country. Not just have people just coming in for the sake of coming into the country. And that's how you are going to be able to then address the issue of illegal immigration.
Premier, we don't have electricity. Okay, now we have it.
Yeah.
And
surprise.
Surprise. Then there is a myth that this is just an election ploy. On the 29th of May, load shedding is coming back. How do we permanently deal with load shedding? As you said in your manifesto, how do we do it? Do we privatize? Do we put in private sectors and work together with the IPPs? Do we sell ESCOM? How do we do it?
Well, let's answer one question. People are saying, are we going to see load shedding coming in, after the elections? I can tell you, definitely, yes, it will happen. You know why? Because NERSA has now come out and also now approved load shedding up to stage 16.
My Lord.
Go and look at NERSA's documents.
Stage 16?
Yes.
Good. That's like 2 days or 3 days.
NERSA has actually approved load shedding. Now, if you are saying, I have dealt with this problem and I'm not going to have load shedding going forward, why have that approval put in place? Why even put the approval for NERSA to then approve that says that you need to then go to stage 16 or the approval to go to up to stage 16? The question that South Africans must also ask is this. What has changed in the last month? We haven't really brought all the power stations back online.
Yes.
We haven't really built any new power stations. We haven't introduced any new private players that are generating additional electricity.
Yes.
What we have done is to then run the same plants without maintaining them, frying them in the process.
Burning diesel.
By the way, we have spent over 50 billion rand in the last couple of years on diesel. Sure. And you must ask, how much are we paying for diesel versus how much when you drive your car here to go and fill up diesel? Somebody is making money out of the chaos that we find in this country in. True. And this is why there's also been a blockage of trying to stop people who are saying we are independent power producers from coming in. Now, you ask us what is then the plan. The plan is pretty simple. We now need to then ensure that you decentralize, the production of electricity in South Africa.
Yes.
Introduce more private, players into the system. In the Western Cape, actually, there's now 2 towns that are becoming load shedding free. Like completely, they are now not going to know what load shedding is, because you are able to then say, are we able to then look into a mix of energy? renewables, and you still have, what you call the nuclear, like what we have in Quebec, that is also now able to then work around that. But also, are you able to then open up that the market can look into what is available at this point in time? So right now, there are people who are saying, when you take over government, give us the mines, the old mines, these mines that you have here, who are saying, give us the mines, we'll use that the acid mine, that water that you have there to generate electricity.
Yes.
There are people who are saying, give us your sewer plants. We will be able to then put biodigesters there that we can, out of the sewer, out of dung or magak, will be able to then generate electricity out of that. There are people who are saying, you have dolomitic pieces of land. Let us make use, because you cannot build houses on those pieces of land, but we can put infrastructure that will be solar based, that we're able to then generate electricity. There is so many that can be done, and so much that can be done. And there are those that are already, the infrastructure that is existing that has been allowed to mouthball. As I said, Pretoria West, Pretoria, Rayville, Alroad, and Kelvin, who are saying, give us the license. We should be able to then get private partners to come in and join us, and then we can then produce electricity. So it doesn't really take a rocket scientist to be able to then fix this problem of electricity. But you need to then understand the chaos means millions of rands and billions of rands into some other people's pockets. And this is why there has never really been the urgent need to address this problem that we're sitting with.
Premier, one more time. Gauteng has over, I think, maybe thousands of security companies.
Yeah.
We have JMPDs.
Yeah.
We have the police services. What is wrong? Because people, even with all these measures in place, people still don't feel safe. Crime is still rising up. How do we deal with crime in Gauteng? Do we impose harsher sentences? As somebody said, bring back death penalty. How do we ensure that we deal with the problem? Because I feel like we keep on increasing the forces every now and then, but it doesn't really impact the ground.
Well, we're not really increasing the forces. The last time the stats were used to inform how many policemen and women were to be used was in 2006. So 18 years ago.
Yes.
So right now, and then 18 years ago in Gauteng, I think you had about 6-7 million people. Now you're having 17, 18 million people in Gauteng. So now you are having one person looking after 550 or 560 people, one policeman looking after 500 to 600 people. You're having a 52% vacancy rate in terms of intelligence and detective workers, which means that you're having, at this point in time, on average, a police detective that is sitting on close to 200 cases, a person. You're having 143 police stations. By the way, I visited all of them, all the 143. You go to this police station, some of them don't even have holding cells. So if you arrest somebody here, you have to now take them across town into another police station. Yeah. It means you're now having a vehicle that is not going to be doing patrolling, because now it has to take somebody into and process that somebody into a different area. You go to places like DR as an example, which is in the Val. That is almost 200 square kilometers. They only have 2 vehicles. And those 2 vehicles, one is used by the captain of the station and another one is used to then patrol. How are you going to then be able to then fight crime? So what we are saying is that there needs to be a number of things that needs to happen in order for us to fight crime. And I want to bring the elements that you were asking questions around. One is that we now need to then devolve power from a national to a provincial perspective. Begitele cannot be the person that decides how everything needs to happen. You need to decentralize. Now, if you understand, and you've been around South Africa, you will understand that the dynamics of Limpopo will be different to the dynamics of Gauteng, will be different to the dynamics of Northwest or Mpumalanga. Therefore, you need provinces to then say, what are the dynamics in our province and how do we deal with that? In Gauteng, you now need to then ensure that you're able to then build much more police stations, but not only building police stations. We now need to then increase the amount of police, actually double the number of police, and not police sitting in police stations, police that are able to then do visible work.
Yes.
You also now need to then say, I need specialized units to deal with certain things within within Gauteng.
Yes.
For instance, you need a unit that I call the Zamazama unit that to deal with the issues of illegal mining. Right now, you go to places like Kagiso, you go to Krugersdorp, police will tell you, now we are not going to go and face up with these guys,
yes.
In the mines. Because these are guys, we come with 9mm guns, they come out with AK-47s and rifles.
Eish.
They are going to go into the holes. They know the networks in the mines. We don't even have any equipment. Once we go there, we're not adequately trained or even have the equipment. They are sitting in the dark. You are working there like targets. They will shoot you. They will kill you. And this is something that we now need to then address. How do we then train, equip, deploy our police to be able to then deal with that? That is the first thing. The second thing is you need also to have a gang unit. Now you go to places like Rivoli, you go to Westbury, Reicha Park and all of that. People are being killed every single day. Westbury, in the last month, 28 people were killed in 1 month.
Yes.
In gang related. And what we're finding out is that, there is influence that is coming from prisons, from gangs in prisons that is now flowing into the areas. We now need to then have a gang unit that is able to understand and deal with this issue and then be able to then reduce, the gang violence. That's the second thing. The other unit that you need, right now, Gauteng, if you're looking at the stats, has the highest number of women that are raped, women that are abused, children that are abused. But if you go to our police stations, what they should be calling the victim empowerment centers are not functional. In certain police stations, if you are raped, if you happen to be raped on a Friday, you will be told come back on Monday because the people are not there to be able to then help you. They don't work over weekends or they're understaffed.
Yes.
These are some of the challenges that we're now saying. If you have units, people that are trained, social workers that are also policemen or women that are trained to be able to then deal with this, you are able to then address this particular issue. You also now need to have a gang or what I call an infrastructure unit. Our infrastructure has been demolished. I'm sure you would have seen videos of people just yanking out street lights and street, the stop signs and all of that, or the leads and stealing of copper cables and then selling. We have a problem in South Africa that people don't want to accept. South Africa doesn't have copper mine, but it's regarded as one of the biggest exporters of copper. What does that tell you? The syndicates that are operating here, that are buying from the scrap metal dealers, that are putting all this thing together and exporting this to China and to other countries. We now need to then have a unit that is able to then look at this holistically and say, where do we start to deal with this? And you need a unit that is able to then deal with that. Not just the person who's at the street, but everybody else who's connected to that, to that hierarchy, and be able to then deal with that.
Okay.
So yeah, those are some of the thoughts around how you then deal with the crime issues that you're facing with.
Premier, it would be injustice if I let you go without me asking you about the current exodus of the most black leaders that left the DA. There was a time where Musimeman was leading this party, Bongani, Baloyi, Hemen Mashaba, and the question is, some were caught experiments that failed.
That statement was very unfortunate, and it's something I cannot agree with.
True.
Yeah.
The question is, aren't you also worried that the people might be worried that also you might, why are you still in the DA after you saw the bloc caucus, as they call it, leave the party? Why are you still there? Why do you still believe that the party can still be inclusive?
Well, look, I think one needs to understand that the DA is a voluntary organization, like any other political party.
Yes.
Is a voluntary organization. And people join in and people leave. I joined the party for principles, not because there was a position that had been offered to me. As I said to you, I left a job that was offering me everything else, and I left. That to be in where I am because I wanted to make a difference.
Yes.
I will leave this party the day that I felt that the party stopped, chasing after what I want, to see in South Africa. People had left, and people left for different reasons.
Yes.
And one of the things is I know most of the people that left personally. Some of them left because they were facing internal contestation, lose, elections, and then on your way out, rubbish the name of the party.
Yes.
There are people who were also facing disciplinary hearings internally. And instead of facing those, then they decide to leave. And there are people that had genuine reasons. People who felt, look, in the area that I'm in the province that I'm in, or in this area, I feel like I'm not being supported in terms of what I'm chasing. And where I think the party should be going, right? So you always have that. But I find it interesting that in certain instances, you had people that had served at the highest echelons of the party's leadership.
Yes.
And never raised any of the issues that they raised on their way out. Hey, the party's racist. Hey, didn't you say the party was racist 20 years when you were a member of parliament or a member of the legislature or a councillor when you were earning a salary? Now that is coming to an end, now you're leaving and then calling the party racist. Some of these things for me don't make sense. And you would see in certain instances people who are now starting to hop because it's all about me and the position that I want.
Yes.
So 1 minute they leave the DA and the DA has stopped growing and stopped representing me and this and that, and then they jump to another party, and within a year and a half they jump to another party. Within a year or so they've started their own parties as well. So it then tells you the character, but I am not about that. I am saying the DA still is a voluntary party. And it's not only the DA. In the EFF, people were called placeholders. They had to be removed. They were removed, because they're called placeholders. Mr Msimanga wrote a scathing letter when he left the ANC. And what I find interesting is that it's only a question that is reserved for the DA. Then say, people are leaving the DA. But I said, hey, these people are leaving different organizations. People are not making noise about it. It's when people are leaving the DA that it becomes newsworthy.
Isn't it because, maybe Premier, the DA has always been priding itself with inclusiveness, working together, you don't see color. But then also you look at also your policies on redress, your views on land, your views on black empowerment, even though there is a discussion to be held around the BEE. Should you still call it a black empowerment, or should you rather look at another policy that, because poverty now is no longer only black, but we still have the colored community, still have the Afrikaners, the redress and the land question as well. The DA has been vague about it, but yet claiming to be speaking for all people. But to some people, it sounds like it's protecting the privilege of the minority.
Not really. I mean, first of all, I will have the youngest member of parliament who should actually now be sworn in, but because we are told now it's late to then do replacement or to actually put in new members. I have a 23-year-old young man called Liam Jacobs. That is going to be the youngest member of parliament. Colored young boy, very talented. And that talks to the DA's goal of inclusivity, that talks to what we want to then present. That we're not just talking, we're doing. You're asking about the issue of BEE and addressing the injustices of the past.
Yes.
We want to address the injustices of the past, but what is currently happening is actually not addressing the injustices of the past. It's actually creating a new set of elites.
True.
Right now, we are seeing people, your Sodis of this world, who are now multimillionaires or billionaires and always continuously claiming previously disadvantaged. When does that stop? You cannot now use race alone as, yes, majority of the people that are previously disadvantaged will be black and then colored and then Indians and so on and so forth. But what you then need to then say is there another criteria that we can use? And also to then say, once you are empowered, you cannot then continue to then go the route of, previously disadvantaged or previously disempowered. So we are saying there's a way in which you will be having a bigger impact in terms of addressing the injustices of the past. But it's not by creating a new elite group. It's by opening it up. I want you to then go and look at how we have been able to then empower companies, small companies and small entrepreneurs coming, in the Western Cape or wherever we are doing work, where we are saying it should not be about the skin color alone, or it should not be about, saying I'm previously disadvantaged.
Merits.
And it should be on merits, but it should also be about how do you bring people to be able to then get into the merit system. So you are also looking into these companies and saying, look, if you are able to then start absorbing and training and actually then ensuring that these other people are able to then start their small businesses and get them onto the step ladder, that is spreading empowerment. It's not talking about talking only about empowerment, but it's acting on empowerment. You would have seen that, becoming the norm, where you are then saying, once you have actually been empowered and up to a certain amount, you can now not be regarded as previously disadvantaged. It doesn't stop you from applying or competing, but then you cannot then claim those points. So you have people that, and you go and look at how many companies have been getting the jobs over and over and over and over and over again, because now that's how you create a small clique. People that have benefited initially and are still using the same status that they used to have. So if you are driving a Bentley now, can you really walk in there and say, I'm previously disadvantaged?
Nah.
You can't. But we now need that person that is saying, I need that helping hand to get onto the stepping ladder. But also, what the ANC has done is created a lot of middleman economy, as I call it. Middleman economy, meaning we don't have producers in South Africa.
Yes.
What we do is people who says, I'll go out, I'll pick up a tender document. The tender says, I want X amount of bottles of water. I am not a producer of a bottle, to be able to then get water and purify and all of that. I go and look at who is selling and then go and ask the question, give me a quotation. I take that quotation, I come back, I put it on my letterhead with 3 times the cost, and then I take it back. And then this is why you are not having producers coming in. This is why you're not having an economy that is able to then grow, because you don't have producers. We are now importing things like toothpicks.
Oh, man.
We are supposed to be saying how many people were coming in at that particular point in time. Have those people now become producers that even if they don't get government contracts, they have a product that is able to stand on its own. They can go into the private sector and do work that needs to be done. This is why you have a group of elites that are getting contracts to replace asbestos, roofing, like Saudis have done in the Free State, they're everywhere, instead of then saying, how do we have young entrepreneurs, young producers that are able to stand on their own beyond, getting government contracts. And this is what we have been saying. You can talk about previously disadvantaged people and not use only race as a criteria. But you can then say, what is the base and what do we do to make sure that you spread, your empowerment project, not just limited it to an elite group of people that are now emerging.
Okay, for the people of Gauteng, for clarity's sake, when the leader John Steenhuisen said some parties must not contest Western Cape, was he not also attempting to protect? Because as the perception to protect the Cape Town, the shiny Cape Town that today even wants to exit South Africa. Is it not true that to some extent the DA wants to protect this white privilege? Don't touch the land, don't touch the economy, speak about social things, but don't go into the things that matter and that will transform the lives of every South African. I mean, what is wrong with people contesting Cape Town? Is he threatened that they might lose the privilege in Cape Town?
No. First of all, I don't think that this is what was meant. Okay. The DA will never support the exodus of the Western Cape. We don't believe in Orania. We don't want another Orania on our hands.
Okay.
We want an exclusive South Africa that belongs to everybody. An inclusive, not exclusive, but an inclusive South Africa that belongs to everybody. We want to build a South Africa that whether you're black, white, colored, whether you're coming from this area or that area, you should belong. Yes. That's what we want to build. What John was talking to is that you have people that, instead of concentrating on making sure that we take this Goliath down, the Goliath that has been in power for 30 years, that has ruined almost everything in this country. You have parties that are concentrating on taking power. And by the way, we're not saying nobody must go and contest.
Yes.
In the Western Cape, we are people that are constitutionalist, and therefore, if you understand what the Constitution says about freedom of association, freedom to choose, and all of that, you are able to then do that. So that is not the case. But he was saying, look, you have people that want to then concentrate on, wanting to wrestle power from people that have actually proven and shown that they're able to then do certain things.
Yes.
And moving in the right direction. But that doesn't say that people cannot contest. I certainly would not agree with it. Everybody should be able to then contest everywhere that they're wanting to contest. But as I was saying, the concentration has always been about, or the obsession about, whether you're having people on the side that are really wanting to empower and bring back the ANC, because it's not them, wanting to take power. It's them actually wanting to then weaken the DA to bring back the ANC.
Premier, before you leave, thank you for coming through.
Thank you.
And I think it's good that we can have these engagements to clear up the stereotypes, to clear up any fears. For the last bit of this interview, the people of Gauteng are watching this interview. Why should they vote for you as the incoming premier of the Gauteng province? There you go.
Well, to the people of Gauteng, you must ask yourself a question. Are you prepared to then sacrifice that dream of 1994 for another 5 years, where we have seen infrastructure collapsing, where we have seen safety and security falling apart, where we have seen the economy dropping and not being able to then create jobs, where we have seen that people are now living in fear, of falling into poverty, and more people living a life of abject poverty, where we have seen more and more of our children being stunted. The dream of 1994 still has an opportunity to become a reality in 2024. The best thing that you can do is to come out in your numbers and vote for your hopes and your dreams, to vote for a better South Africa. We can rescue South Africa. We can resuscitate and rescue that dream of 1994. Come out in your numbers and vote for the Democratic Alliance, a party that has proven and has shown that it does care. It's not corrupt. It does care about how the future of South Africa is going to be. As a young person, come out in your numbers. If you are registered, come out and vote for a future that you will be part of. Come out and ask political parties, what is your plan? The DA has already highlighted its plan, and not just a manifesto that is drawn up by politicians, but a manifesto that is informed by people who are working and specialists in different fields, who are saying we can rebuild South Africa, we can make South Africa great, and we are committed to doing that. So you have an opportunity come the 29th of May to make South Africa beautiful again, to make Gauteng the heartbeat of South Africa that will actually then ensure that we have a better life. That's the message that we have for the people of Gauteng, the people of South Africa. Thank you very much.
That's the incoming premier, Solly Msimanga. Will you be voting for the DA on the 29th of May? You make that choice. Share your comments on the comment section. And yes, feel free to share, subscribe, and join the movement. This was proudly brought to you by Podcast Party.